I never expected to be fired in front of a client, especially not by my billionaire father-in-law, who believed money gave him the right to rewrite reality. When he cut me off mid-sentence and told security to escort me out, I stood up calmly. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just thanked the client for their time and walked toward the door. That's when something unexpected happened. One by one, chairs scraped the floor. Voices followed me. 22 colleagues stood up, shut their laptops, and walked out with me, leaving silence, contracts, and egos shattered behind us. My name is Evelyn Carter, and until the day my billionaire father-in-law fired me in front of a client, I believed professionalism could survive family power dynamics, because when you marry into wealth, you learn quickly that money amplifies personality rather than refining it, and Richard Hale had always believed ownership entitled him to obedience, not respect, which is why the meeting that ended my career there was scheduled like any other routine negotiation, even though it involved a nine-figure client I had personally managed for years, built trust with through late-night calls and crisis mitigation, and protected when executives treated them like interchangeable revenue streams. Yet halfway through my presentation, while I was outlining a compliance structure my team had designed to prevent regulatory exposure, Richard leaned forward, interrupted me with outdated numbers, corrected my phrasing as if I were a junior associate, and then casually announced to the room that I was no longer employed by the company, citing organizational restructuring as if terminating someone publicly were a strategic choice rather than a display of dominance, and the room froze because everyone understood the unspoken rule he had just violated. But I didn't react the way he expected, because humiliation only works when you participate in it, so I calmly closed my laptop, thanked the client for their time, apologized for the disruption, and stood up, and as I turned toward the door, a chair scraped behind me, then another, until 22 people stood, gathered their belongings, shut their laptops, and walked out with me in complete silence, including compliance directors, legal leads, analysts, engineers, and operations managers who had spent years absorbing pressure so executives could posture comfortably, leaving Richard staring at an empty conference table and a client whose expression had shifted from confusion to concern. Outside the building, no one spoke immediately because moments like that don't require commentary, and when someone finally asked what we should do next, I told them the truth, that I didn't have a plan yet but I wouldn't waste their trust, because loyalty given freely carries more weight than contracts enforced through fear. And by that evening my phone began ringing, not with sympathy but with opportunity, because synchronized departures at senior levels signal instability to the market, and I told the same factual story to every recruiter, investor, and client who asked, never embellishing, never attacking, simply explaining what happened and why 22 professionals chose integrity over security. Within 48 hours the client from that meeting formally paused negotiations, citing leadership continuity concerns, and 3 more clients followed within the week, triggering contractual penalties Richard had ignored because he assumed institutional knowledge was transferable, but institutions aren't built on branding, they're built on people, and people had just walked out. Internally, panic replaced arrogance, and suddenly Richard wanted emergency meetings, explanations, and damage control, but the board wanted accountability. And when asked why the company's operational spine had exited simultaneously, no one could answer honestly without saying my name, and that silence was louder than any accusation. Meanwhile my former team and I didn't rush, because urgency without leverage is weakness, and instead we incorporated a consultancy, signed retained clients within a month, including the one from the meeting, and rebuilt without ego-contaminating decision-making, and the difference was immediate. Because people perform better when respected and clients stay longer when treated as partners rather than leverage. 3 months later Richard announced a restructuring, then layoffs, then a board review, and when my husband told me his father blamed me for everything, I felt nothing but clarity, because accountability feels like betrayal to men who have never practiced it, and the last time I saw Richard was at a charity event where he avoided eye contact and spoke carefully, surrounded by people who no longer deferred automatically. Because power doesn't disappear dramatically, it drains quietly, and standing there with my team, laughing freely, I understood that being fired wasn't my downfall, it was the exact second his authority stopped being absolute, because money can buy compliance, but it can never command loyalty, and loyalty, once withdrawn, leaves a silence no fortune can ever fill.